Oakland Raiders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Super Bowl 37.
They couldn't catch another shit. Cannons like you know this, so it's time to flip the script. Cruising through the bay on that Buccaneer battleship, sold up, screaming out, so Buck, what you heard? So Buck, what you heard? So Buck, what you heard?
All right, welcome to another edition of Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buck What You Heard. And as I mentioned before, folks, I'm enjoying getting some of the listeners on, getting a listener's perspective on the Buccaneers team. This is a fan show. I want to keep the fans involved. And, you know, as we go through the weeks, especially in the off season, I really want to get some of the fans on here, anybody that's listening, you know, just to kind of get your perspective on the team. I'm joined by Adam. Adam, how you doing tonight, my friend? Let's see. One more time. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing tonight, man?
Okay. Excellent, man.
All right. Hey, we're finally into the off season, man. Pretty for some folks, unless you love defense, that was a pretty uneventful Super Bowl. Just getting us on into the off season. We're finally here. The rumors are already abounding on certain players going or certain players staying. So right now, I'm just kind of taking a step back to just enjoy the off season. I'm going to get into some of this new football league that's out. So kind of check that out and see how that goes. And, you know, tonight we'll definitely be taking any questions from the chat or any comments from the chat. We'll be talking about that as well. So we will definitely be paying attention to the chat. But I want to start first things first. Adam, what were your thoughts on the Super Bowl? I personally, it's incredible to see a team like the New England Patriots. A lot of people hate them. They keep winning. It's just going to be up to somebody to stop them. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how I look at it. You're going to have to put together a team to stop them. And nobody's been able to do it. Well, some people have, but for the most part, not a lot of people have been able to. But what were your thoughts on the game?
I mean, it was anticlimactic after those amazing championship games, and then you go in with all these expectations of a battle. I don't know if I thought it was going to be high scoring. I wasn't a big fan of the Rams offense going throughout the playoffs and towards the end of the year. But I thought they put up more than 3 points, man. The game was a little bit of a sleeper. You know, being Bucs fans, we're used to those. Well, we're old school Bucs fans, used to those low scoring games. Yeah. But you know, I kind of played out like I thought it would in regards to the Patriots winning it. And I'm by no means a Patriots fan.
Yeah. But you got to consider that's a dynasty, and I don't think you're going to see a run like this in your lifetime or my lifetime. We just won't see it. But
no, not in the era of free agency. It's
and that's what makes
dynasties should have been a thing of the past. But for somehow, some way, they've been able to keep the continuity. You know, they've been able to keep the key pieces in place with Brady and Belichick, and all the other parts around them have changed. It's all been interchangeable. Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy, and they've changed out defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators. I mean, you've had promotions. You had people leave, you had people get cut, and they've continuously stayed in there and played and played and played. I would really be curious to see if it's a system. I had this argument at work. Is it the system, or is it the coach and the quarterback? I tend to believe that if this, in this day and age of free agency, we won't see this again. This is not the norm. This is the exception to the rule right here. And I keep hearing the what if stories. What if it was Joe Cool, or what if it was Drew Brees in under center? It really doesn't matter, because that'll never happen. We won't really know. That's more of a what if scenario. but you have Tom Brady, and what Tom Brady's been able to accomplish in his career is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the perfect storm. I mean, if you look at every piece around them has been interchangeable, other than Brady and Belichick. Every other position has had turnover, and somehow they continue to turn out winning teams. I mean, you can say they're in a weak division. You can give all the excuses in the world. It doesn't matter. 9 Super Bowl appearances, 6 wins. We're all sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of hearing about it. You're sick of hearing about it. It's that impressive. Just like I'm assuming, the Jordan haters were sick of hearing about the Bulls and Jordan. You know what I mean? It's the same way. It really, it's overkill. Everybody wants to see somebody new, and they can't be stopped, man. I mean, they're always there.
Yeah. So, to me, I think the biggest disappointment to me was the Rams defense. You go out and you invest all this money in these pieces, and Ndamukong Suh, Aqib Talib, and so many other pieces on defense to put together a defense that gets you to the Super Bowl. And when you get to the Super Bowl, there are times where stops are needed to be made, and they just don't happen.
But I mean, holding the Patriots to 10 points, I think is a win. You got to look at that offense, which I still kind of scratch my head and wonder what the hell the game plan was. I mean, how you don't, you kind of built your offense around the running game and Todd Gurley, and then
he was hurt.
He was hurt, but I thought he was pretty. He had some success with the limited carries they gave him. Yeah. And maybe he was on a pitch count. Maybe that injury played a bigger role. Although everybody said, including him, that wasn't the case. The injuries isn't what stopped them from using him. I don't know. I just think the game plan was a little odd, and McVay got out coached. And I think to circle back to experience, and maybe that's why this Bruce Arians hire is so exciting, because he brings that just wealth of experience with him, having that experienced coach who's been there before. There's something to be said for that, and it's honestly something that we haven't had since Gruden, since Dungy, having somebody with a pedigree and a resume. You can be Greg Schiano, you can be disciplined, but without that resume, without that pedigree, these grown men, millionaires, it's easy to tune that out eventually, especially when you're not seeing the success on the field.
Yeah. Well, when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we can go all the way back to Sam Weish, I would say the Sam Weish hire, the Tony Dungy hire, actually the Tony Dungy hire would be the last realistic where you had a general manager go through all the coaches, interview all the available coaches to come up with the coach that they want. They got their guy. You look at John Gruden. I do believe that Bill Parcells was close to signing before they picked up John Gruden, that was in the works behind the scenes. So that was kind of a secondary, okay, this is the guy we need to go and get this guy in here since we couldn't get our guy. And then you look at after John Gruden, it was Raheem Morris. And if you remember, Raheem Morris was getting ready to, was potentially going to go to Denver. Denver was very interested in bringing him over. And basically the Glaciers said, hey, we want to keep him here. Let's work on getting him this coaching position here instead of going through and interviewing available coaches. These things that they've done since John Gruden have all been reactionary to the original plan not working, or putting themselves in a position to where they couldn't go through a normal NFL coaching interview where you interview all the best available options, determine which guy is going to work well with your general manager, bring that guy in, and let's see what happens. So the Dirk hire was very reminiscent of that. I mean, it almost mirrored the Raheem Morris hire exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was they wanted to keep
at least some consistency, in turnover. So they carried over the coordinator, and both were, I think, at least fairly hot commodities. Obviously they wanted to keep Dirk to keep the consistency with Jameis.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think they ever intended on going outside and really bringing in, anybody with their own plans. Like Dirk carried over his offensive philosophy and just kind of, added Mike Smith because he was available and he was, familiar with Mike, and obviously had the experience with them in Jacksonville and then in Atlanta. So it was just an easy transition. But I think it's a different story with Arians. He's got a plan.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a plan, and that's something to be excited about. I think for the first time, we're going to see a team that has an identity, and I think on both sides of the ball.
Let me go a step further. You have a head coach who actually has faith in the quarterback, and I kind of want to jump back to Raheem Morris, because after Raheem Morris, you had Greg Schiano come in, and Greg Schiano was probably a last ditch effort to actually get a head coach in, considering all the other options were not available. So it's just one of those things where they just have not gone. This is the first time that I'm actually comfortable, because they've gone through the proper, coaching, bringing in an Eric Bieniemy to interview, bringing in some of the other up and coming names in the coaching industry to possibly be the guy at the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they did end up settling on Bruce Arians, who I felt like was very qualified, considering what he did with Peyton Manning. I'm thinking Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck. It was Andrew Luck, excuse me. Considering what he did with Andrew Luck, considering what he did with Carson Palmer and some of the other quarterbacks and the Cardinals. If you go back to the Cardinals and look at some of the guys that they had under center when Palmer was injured, and how they were able to get wins regardless of who was under center. So I'm hoping that that's what you're going to see with Jameis Winston. And somebody brought it up in the chat about Bruce Arians talking about the throwing interceptions. The offensive line has not been right for a long, long time. And we can both agree on that. And I'm not using that as an excuse. There have been several times where Jameis Winston's been under duress and he's thrown interceptions. There have been other times where I'm looking at the screen going, God, why did you do that? So it's a little bit of both. But we have a head coach who's very confident in Jameis Winston. And I think that's something that Jameis Winston needs going into this season. What are your thoughts on, as far as Bruce Arians and Jameis Winston? How do you think that could potentially work out?
I mean, I think it's imperative. The crazy thing is that Dirk came in and openly said that he would have picked Mariota over Jameis. And right. I'm sure Jameis knows that. I'm sure Jameis heard that story. It's nuts to hear your head coach say that kind of thing. But you could see, I think Dirk was always afraid of letting Jameis take the reins. Yeah. And some of that's probably
warranted.
Warranted. But the fact that Jameis always was in a position where he felt like he had to carry the team on his shoulders, because defensively this team hasn't really given him any support since he's been here. I think that puts that unnecessary, unneeded pressure on a young quarterback, and really does cause them to have that mentality where they press, and they force some things. They feel like every possession is make or break. And that's a tough thing to shake off. It's kind of like having PTSD, man. I mean, hopefully with maturity, he is able to stay consistent and play within his own game and not try to do too much. But you don't want to take that back too far either. You want some of that freelance Jameis, because he does do some special things.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. The one thing that I will say about Jameis is, let's start from the beginning. The suspension set Jameis back, I would say, at least a year. I mean, as far as his progress in the NFL, coming in and trying to come behind the Fitzmagic, the big yards, the big bombs, the huge games and large scores that they were able to do, coming in and try and not playing within yourself, but trying to play like somebody else that you see. So to me, I think that he finally, it was good that he got benched after the Cincinnati game. It helped to put things back in perspective for him, because then he started taking care of the ball. He kind of got to the point where he wouldn't take there were shots that he could have taken downfield that he didn't. And I don't know if it's because of worrying about turnovers that are trying to protect the ball, that he was very cognizant of where he was, and he would take the little dump offs, and it's helping him to read through his progressions a lot more than what I had seen from him. So I don't know. I am glad that I'm glad that Dirk Cutter is gone. I'm happy for Bruce Arians to be there. I think that that Jameis will benefit from him. And when you look at it, flip-flopping back and forth from quarterback to quarterback doesn't do well for a quarterback psyche. And Jameis Winston definitely felt the effects of that as well, knowing that your head coach is looking at you and saying, "You're not my guy."
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end for Dirk right there. The moment he benched Jameis and then kept Jameis benched was pretty much the writing on the wall. I mean, we were virtually guaranteed, to not make the playoffs at that point anyways. So what good is it to have a journeyman backup in there trying to lead you to one or two additional wins? That made no sense at all. And I think that ultimately was the kill shot, for Dirk. But I mean, kind of, imagine Jameis in a system where he does have that defensive support. And I think it was Live Without Fear put in chat, that Bruce Arians came out and kind of talked about, when a quarterback is down by 21, obviously he's going to have to press, and pressing is going to lead to some erratic throws and turnovers. Yeah. And I think, the question was, are you worried about Jameis turning the ball over? And I think Bruce understands, why Jameis, was a turnover machine, right, or has been a turnover machine at times, not just answering the question, yay or nay, but actually putting, some
context,
some
context to it.
Yeah, exactly. Put some context to it. He's going to have to obviously put Jameis in a position, in an offense that best suits Jameis's abilities. I don't know that that's ever been the case. I mean, Jameis
hasn't been.
Jameis does have mobility. I don't think that Dirk ever really used that mobility. Jameis made a lot of big plays on his own, scrambling, because the line has never been strong, and he's been in a one-dimensional offense since he's gotten here. We really haven't had any run support.
His rookie year was the only year that they really had run support.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they did. They had a pretty decent tandem running game his rookie year, but again, that was his rookie year.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got to trust that Bruce knows what he's doing. He's done it in the past. It's crazy that we've always had the comparison between Jameis and Roethlisberger, and now we have the man that really molded Roethlisberger's career. And built and helped build that offense that Ben had a lot of success with. So that bodes well for Jameis as well, because I do think there's a lot of that. I think obviously, they're different in certain ways. I think Ben's more accurate than Jameis. But Jameis brings a lot of things to the table similar to Ben. And, I think that's probably more of the style of offense we're going to see. Reminiscent of those years that Bruce was with Pittsburgh, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you right there. Going back to Jameis Winston, I think Jameis Winston put a lot of unnecessary pressure on himself coming back from that suspension as well. What Ryan Fitzmagic did in the 2 games that they had, actually 3, losing that third game, but what they put together was amazing, and when you're not able to talk to your team, not able to work out with your team, and you come back in here and you feel like you should be able to just step in and do something, and not playing the way that you play. I'm sure that affected him as well. So
that style was never going to be sustainable.
Not at all, because there was no running game.
No running game, and once we met a team with a real defense, the Bears absolutely exposed us. And, similar to the Vikings game the year before, I think took the life out of us. And then the Pittsburgh game obviously had an effect too. But that Bears game was just, it was just a backbreaker, and I think took a lot of heart and the wind out of this team. And yeah, absolutely, Jameis came in with that mentality because, Gene, that's the kind of offensive performances it was going to take behind that crappy defense. Yeah. You better be able to put up 35, 40 points when your defense can't stop anybody.
And that Chicago game, and that, like, we're seeing that in the chat, and you mentioned it too. That Chicago game exposed a lot of things, and I'd been talking about the defense and talking about injuries or whatever. But once they switched out coordinators, Mike Smith was the culprit all along. I mean, when you take a step back and look at everything, and the game in Atlanta when Julio Jones, what did he receive for almost 200 yards or something like that? I can't remember what it was, but Mike Smith should have been fired after that game. I mean, when you look back on it now and you look back through the rest of the season and then into this season, Mike Smith should have been fired after that Julio Jones thing where they didn't make any adjustments at all. He just pretty much let that roll. Now, that Chicago game really exposed the Bucs defense a lot because these people they kept running the same play. And that was a carryover from last year where a team found a weakness and they kept exploiting it and nobody would change anything. It just kept happening. So again, I know this is all water under the bridge, but just looking at who Bruce Arians has brought in now, I have very high expectations for this defense. I don't know how much turnover we're going to see. That remains to be seen. I've seen a lot of things on social media, but I've kind of taken a step back from social media as far as who's doing what. And I want to kind of wait and see what the announcements are going to be. But I really feel like there's talent on this defense, regardless of what a lot of people may say. There are some pieces that are missing, however, but there is talent on this team. I do believe that this defense will be head and shoulders better than it was last year. I'm going to go on record saying that right now, having not even seen any of the changes or being aware of any of the changes that are going to be made. I really believe the defense itself will be better than last year, which will definitely lead to at least a couple more wins than what we've been seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest question is scheme. Yeah. Are we going to stick with the 4-3? Are we going to base out of a 3-4? Obviously, you're in nickel most of the time, anyways.
And I'm glad you said that because we've been having this conversation. People feel like the Buccaneers are just going to be 3-4 from quarter 1 to quarter 4. That's not the case. It's going to be, you may see a hybrid. We don't know what's going to happen, but I can promise you it won't be 3-4 from quarter 1 to quarter 4. No. And that's what people need to try to understand. When you say 3-4, you can't get all freaked out by this. It's just a different scheme. And I do believe the Bucs have the personnel to actually make that work either way.
Yeah, they have some pieces. whether our linebackers are heavy enough in the ass to be able to run that 3-4, we'll see. I think
it's going to be more predicated on speed than your big boys out there.
Yeah, I think certain linebackers like Beckwith, I think he's built for that 3-4.
Noah Spence, I would hope Noah Spence gets an opportunity to show what he can do.
Yeah, but can Noah Spence cover? Can Noah Spence play in space? Can Noah Spence play, standing up? Those are all things that we haven't seen.
Exactly.
He hasn't been asked to do that here. Mm-hmm. And the same with our other ends. Do they have the ability to do both? To play, in that hybrid type system where they're a down lineman and then they're also, playing in space. So that's really the difference is you got to have hybrid type players who can hold up on the line of scrimmage, as well as being able to hold up in space without their hand in the dirt. So that's going to be the main carryover. I don't think our interior linemen will be fine. Obviously, I think Vita's built for the 3-4. He's built to play the nose. He was a nose tackle last year. He's never going to be a 3 technique. So really, if he's the building block now, whether McCoy stays or not, whether McCoy slides outside and plays that hybrid tackle end position, which I think he'd actually be good at doing. If money was no object, Jeremy McCoy would be here next year 100%. It's the contract. That's the only thing. That's the only question here. Jeremy McCoy can play. Is he top 10 defensive tackle? Probably not anymore. But we're a better team with McCoy. I don't
absolutely.
care what people say. Say. We get rid of McCoy, it's going to leave a gap that we're going to have to fill. Whether it's in the draft or free agency, that's a tough gap to fill. It's going to be it will be tough, but the argument is we haven't won with him, so are we going to really miss him? I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see. And again, there's going to be money available for a couple of free agents. And again, these guys don't have to be your top tier free agents. These are going to have to be guys that can come in and play consistently and stay healthy. And, because you want that guy that's going to be able to stay out on the field. That's what's going to be very important. And as we've seen, the Bucs have gotten free agents and they come in and they're unable to stay healthy. They're just not that durable. And, you're ending up having to get some guy off the street to come in and fill a void. So hopefully they can get that fixed. I'm looking in the chat here. There's a question I definitely wanted to ask you about regarding the running game. I like what we saw in the running game. The Bucs didn't commit to it. If they had committed to it, I believe they would have had a 1,000-yard rusher this year in Peyton Barber. And a lot of people overlook what he was able to do. And you consider the offensive line in this stupid experiment 2 years in a row with offensive linemen. You've got a Pro Bowl right guard who needs to be a Pro Bowl right guard and not a center or anything else. Let him play in his natural position. There are a lot of guys that are playing out of the position that they played in college or were drafted to play in. So there are some holes on this offensive line. But I don't think the offensive line is as god awful as people make it out to be. I just think there were a lot of people that were playing out of position. You had some injuries, and you have some guys that may be past that age to really be out there as a starter, and should be more as a rotational person. I was going to get your opinion on that, and especially the running game, considering the Bucs didn't really commit to it like they should have last year.
Yeah, I think we were it's definitely the most inconsistent group out of everybody. Obviously Beninock and Kappa at right guard both were a failure. Donovan Smith.
Kappa, I don't. What do you think about the offensive line coach? I mean, do you feel like he put him in a
Warhop? Never ever a fan of George Warhop. Sorry, and I know he's got a good reputation, in the league, but I mean, who did he develop other than I guess Allie, but I mean Allie had success.
Allie's a natural talent, though. I mean,
yeah, he's natural. Exactly. Right. He's a natural guy. You know, I don't know if you want to credit Warhop with developing DeMar, because DeMar was already on his way, right, you know, before he even came into the building. And I don't think that Donovan Smith has improved at all. If anything, I think his game has regressed. And so while he may be a good X's and O's, he may be a good coach, you know, teaching fundamentals, it didn't seem to ever really carry over. And, you know, and the guys underneath that second and third string group never, you know, we couldn't even find a diamond in the rough. You know, guard is essentially the easiest position on the entire team to fill. Literally, there's no easier position than to find at least a capable guard. You can convert defensive tackles into guards. You can convert old offensive tackles into guards. Anybody with size and at least a little bit of footwork and ability, you know, should be able to produce more than a Beninock or a Kappa did. And to me, it doesn't make any sense. We were out physical constantly. You know, Ryan Jensen did his best to hold the point, but we were just getting blown up left and right out of that right guard position. And it's got to be a wall. And if it isn't fortified across the line, you know, defenses get paid, man. They know how to break you down, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, how many times did our running backs get hit 2-3 yards into the backfield over and over and over again? How many times did we start the possession 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13 because, you know, we couldn't gain any positive yardage, right. And that's with the back. You know, Peyton Barber, Jesus, dude, that guy fought for every single yard he got last year. Whatever his rushing total ended with at the end of the season, my God, dude, has a running back ever earned more of his yards than that guy? And so put him in a position where the line is giving him some push. Yeah, exactly. You know, and put Jameis in a position, you know, with where he can hand the ball off and have the ball in second and manageable or third and short, you know. Let's go back to the Patriots, man. Let's go back to that. Their defense held the Rams to 3 points. Do you think Brady ever felt that pressure to where on each and every individual possession that that the game was riding on him to make a play? No. He had the defense had his back. The running game had his back. His receivers always get yak, always catch the ball and run for more yardage. You know, it's the perfect offense for a quarterback. It's what you want for your quarterback. You don't want your quarterback having to, you know, go out there and create 10, 12 plays a game and throw the ball 50 times a game. It's a recipe for disaster. And we're caught in that same cycle we have been for the last 4 coaches. You know, the system, the plan hasn't been there. And I think it's going to be different with Bruce. I could be wrong. It could be all for nothing, but I don't know. I'm hoping it's not.
Yeah, most definitely. And when you look at that, Peyton Barber rushed for 871 yards. And like I was saying, the first 2, 3, maybe even 4 games, the Bucs were not committed to the run. They didn't feel like I had a podcast where somebody came out and said, well, they don't need to run if they're doing this. Okay. But, you know, you see later on in the season how important the run game was, and the Bucs really didn't get the most benefit out of it just because of how their offensive line was. 871 yards. And, you know, people, you know, they're saying that, you know, we need to draft it back. I don't know. I looked at Ronald Jones. Every time Ronald Jones got on the field, he was getting blown up. He got gun shy towards the end of the season where he kept getting hit in the backfield. He wasn't even getting a chance to get out and do anything. So, yeah,
I don't know if Ronald Jones will ever be a player. To me, Sean Wilson has a higher upside than Ronald does, but I guess we'll see. We'll see, because, you know, Bruce knows what it looks like. That's another thing he brings to the table. He knows what it looks like, and he's going to know pretty quickly who has it and who doesn't. And I have a feeling he's not going to be the type of coach that's going to put up with any kind of nonsense, man. You know, so
accountability.
You know, whether Ronald wants to live the NFL life without being an actual on the field NFL player. Because man, if you follow any social media, I mean, that guy acts like he's a superstar, but he hasn't done anything on the field yet. And I guess a lot of the rookies coming into the league kind of have that like they made it type of attitude before they even hit the field. And I felt like that with this kid from the get-go. Like, he was a star, like he was coming from Cali, he had the swagger, and did absolutely nothing to earn it, to earn the confidence that he walked in the door with. And I think it was a rude awakening for the kid. And that's why I like players like Sean Wilson, a guy that nobody expected to make the team, and if it wasn't for injury, I think he would have had a much bigger role in this offense. Jaquiz ended up having to play that second back role, and that guy probably doesn't make any other NFL team, but the fact that he had some experience under Dirk's system, it was a good pass blocker. He basically had to be on the team. Without him and Alan Cross, Jameis would have died in multiple games and gotten murdered. They both bailed Jameis out many a time. So
absolutely,
but again, it's all about development, and
that's the word right there. That is the word right there, development. You can bring guys out there and cart them out onto the field or whatever, but if they're not developing, if they're not getting better game by game, week by week, you've kind of failed as a coach, to be very honest, in my opinion.
Bruce is excited, and he should be excited. He's inherited a lot of talent, but I still think he's going to have to, probably turn the roster over, at least the backside of the roster over, pretty heavily, and get guys in here that obviously fit his system, and that he can fit the system too, because he made a point of saying you got to fit the system to the players. It's got to be a little bit of both, right? I mean, you're going to inherit 53 starters, and all 53 can't go. So you got to make the best of what you have, and try to find the right balance, in order to have success, because this fan base is expecting success right away.
Yeah, that's where my expectations are is at the playoffs. I haven't gotten caught up too much in the draft yet. I still want to see what this GM and head coach are going to do as far as letting people go. Who are they going to keep? Who are they going to let stay? Who are you going to replace? And where are you going to upgrade at? And that's where we will know once we've gotten into free agency and gotten an idea of what Tampa is looking to do. Then you can kind of gauge what you're going to do in the draft. There are guys that I like in the draft that I've actually gone out and kind of looked at some of their play. And then there are other guys where I'm like, that's kind of a luxury pick, but whatever. Games are won and lost in the trenches. One thing that this playoff season taught me from wild card to the Super Bowl is games are won and lost in the trenches. And people keep forgetting about that. You don't build a team from the back to the front, drafting a safety when your defensive line is lacking and your defensive line has never gotten the attention that it deserves, going all the way back to the year after the Super Bowl. That's where you got to look at this team, and you really have to just kind of get in there and start fixing things. Because the one thing that, we talked about the Patriots here and there, they always have depth. Another team that I look at are the Ravens. You talk about a defensive line, they're always drafting defensive linemen. Every year almost, it seems like they're paying attention to that.
Steelers the same way. The Steelers the same way.
And the offensive linemen too, they're always looking at the trenches, and then everything else you can kind of plug and play. And I think that's what's going to need to happen in order for the Bucs to turn this thing around. Is you have to, even if they have to, and I keep hearing people talking about trading back. If there's a good offensive lineman or a defensive lineman that you can pick up, I mean, yeah, I could see that happening. It's just one of those things for me that they need to fix the holes in the trenches and get guys that are going to be consistent, guys that are committed to winning. That's what this team is really going to need, moving forward.
Right. And it's got to be the right players for this system. Mm-hmm. We all want that shiny name, don't we? We all want that blue chip, top ranked
I want somebody who's going to go and that difference maker. Yeah.
But do me a favor, off the top of your head, real quick, Gene. Name me the Patriots starting defensive line and starting offensive line. Can you throw out at least 3 names?
Adrian Claiborne.
Yeah, exactly. Adrian Claiborne and his baby arm. Basically he just got a Super Bowl ring, and good for him, man. Good for him.
So
exactly, but you had a bunch of young guys and sprinkled in with older unheralded free agent vets like an Adrian Claiborne or a Trent Brown. Everybody's talking about now is the cream of the crop, and they got as a throwaway, in the throwaway trade, and these guys come in and they develop them, and they're hungry. And
there you go.
It's like joining the military. That's what they kind of remind me of, man. It's like if you join that team, you're now a Marine. And I don't care where you came from before. I don't care how many years you spent in jail. I don't care how many. It doesn't matter. When you go to that team, you're a Marine. The name on the back of your jersey means absolutely shit. The name on the front of the jersey or the logo on the side of the helmet is what you represent. And if you can build that type of mentality, you're going to be successful. It isn't about the name. It isn't about they cut Randy Moss. Exactly. They cut LeGarrette. They cut LeGarrette Blount, who broke records, rushing records for them. It doesn't matter. That's why it's not about the name. It's not about the player. It's about the system. And I mean, really, there is one player that matters, and that's Brady. But I ultimately think, once he's gone, if they keep that same continuity, they're still going to have success, even without Brady. Right. Time will tell. But that's what you want to build here. Right. You know what I mean? That's what you want to build here.
Yeah, you want to build something exactly that's going to last a long time, and you're going to continuously see this team getting better. Because when I looked at the Patriots at the beginning of the season, and I was looking at their wide receivers, I was like, I'm looking at all the moves these other teams have made. This might be it for New England. But you know what? It didn't matter. It did not even matter. Josh Gordon, I'm thinking, oh, wow, Josh Gordon. Now the Patriots are really going to do something. And once again, here's this guy's nowhere to be found. They've got guys that are committed to this system, and they all come in and they play as one unit. And that's what I think gets missed along the way. That's why for me, I don't ever have a dog in the race as far as the draft goes. And I can take that all the way back to, I would say, Jesus, I wanted Luke Kuechly, and we ended up with Mark Barron. And I think that was the last time that I really had any vested interest in, hey, I want this guy to.
Gene, we had Mason Foster. We didn't need Luke Kuechly.
This is true. So I guess getting his toes on the line too. But again, that just taught me over the years that if my guy doesn't come here, I can look at the draft and say, okay, I'd like to see that guy come here. I think he could benefit this team. And you know what? Didn't happen. But I went on. I rooted for this team to get to the playoffs because that's where it's the starting point every year, and this year is no different, no exception. My guy may not come here, and that's fine. I'm good with that. I just want this team to be successful. So again, that's where I'm at with this. This offseason will be all about, hey, we got this guy that's good. Not my guy didn't come here, because the one thing that I've seen out of social media is everybody wants to be right. It's the big thing that I see. And I think that's the most frustrating thing when we miss the fact that we want this team to go to the Super Bowl, get to the playoffs and win a playoff game, that kind of thing. Oh, go ahead. I'm going to cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off, man. You didn't. But you know what's coming, man. You know what's coming. And maybe it is time to back off of social media, during this part of the year, because the fans you're going to hear it. They're going to start crying. Why isn't Jason Light added so-and-so? Why isn't Landon Collins here? Why haven't we got Jadeveon Clowney? Why haven't we got DeMarcus Lawrence? It's coming. It's coming. They're all going to cry. They're all going to bitch. They're all going to want to know why we haven't added. And I don't think this is the offseason where we do add those top tier free agents.
You can't.
I really
right
don't.
Now. This is
really don't.
This is where your general man. This is how you're gonna know if your general manager is good or not. When your salary cap is lower, like what we have right now, we don't have the luxury of what we've had in past years. He's gonna have to be creative. He's gonna have to get guys that he's gonna have to think outside the box and say, okay, let's look at this guy. Let's see if this guy can come in here and fill the void.
Yep.
It may even come down to when he trades back, is the guy that he gets in the first round going to be that impact player if he gives up that number 5 pick and moves back for more draft picks? He's got to hit home runs on these draft picks this year. It's imperative that he does. Nothing short of the playoffs, I think, will really help him keep his job, or I would be surprised if it did.
Yeah, I mean, BA has inherited a team that can score points through the air.
Yes.
We've got matchup nightmares. With Evans and OJ alone, we've got some serious mismatches, and then you just sprinkle in the supporting cast with Godwin and Humphreys and Deshaun if they bring them back with Brait. I mean, it really is a star-studded cast of players. And if we can sprinkle in a good running game with that, we're going to be hard to stop. And if we have a stout defense on top of that, there isn't any reason we can't win 9-10 games or more. There really isn't any reason. They just have to, talk is cheap. There isn't any reason that we shouldn't have won 11 games last year as well. But we come to find out our defense can't stop anybody. We can't run the ball. Our offensive line is leaking like a sieve. Our star players aren't playing like star players. You got Vinny Curry making $8 million doing nothing. You got guys, free agents that we brought in, that have underachieved left and right. Bo Allen, it's just there's got to be some change. And obviously we've made some change. So hopefully this change is going to bring what we've all expected, which is success. Is it going to happen year one? I hope so. I mean, I'm an old school Bucs fan. Okay. I went to my first game in '83. I've been through the leanest of years.
Yeah, we both have. We both have.
Being a Bucs fan is never been
remember when they had It's a Bucs Life? That they should have just kept that. That's just what it is right there. Through when we had the winning,
it's never really.
When we had the winning years, it was good.
That's never.
Go ahead.
That's never really gone away. And now It's a Bucs Life has such a negative connotation. It's a Bucs Life means get ready for the struggle, get ready for the pain, get ready for the heartbreak, get ready for the disappointment. The off season is the Bucs fan type of season. The draft, the changes, you get built back up again. It's like that spouse that cheats on you and then she sweet talks you, back into the house. Baby, it's gonna be okay. Then
I won't do that again.
That's right. I won't do it again. I just made you some steak and potatoes and all this, right? And then she cheats on you again, and it's like the cycle. We're that battered spouse, right? We're that battered husband, and all us men and women, all us Bucs fans know that feeling. And right now, it's the time of year. It's the time for hope. It's the time for change.
That's right.
And we're all hoping and changing. I do know this. Nothing is sweeter than the success after this long, after going this long without making the playoffs. Yeah. Oh my God, Gene, how incredibly satisfying is it going to be when we finally do taste that success? Like if there are Bucs fans, there are Bucs fans that are on the fence, those fair weather fans. The ones like, maybe I'll become a Dolphins fan. Well, who's good this year? Let me, take that jersey out of my closet and wear it. Listen, stand by this team because eventually it's going to be worth it. And it's so sweet. Like I cried real tears, real tears of joy when Rondé intercepted that ball on Philly and ran it back for a touchdown. I cried, man, tears.
Yeah.
I didn't even cry for the Super Bowl. I cried during that game because we overcame so much. Yeah. And I was that little retarded kid in school that wore Bucs stuff, wore the orange stuff.
Yeah,
got made fun of constantly. Got they called them the sucks and
the
sucking ears and all that stuff. Like I was literally bullied as a child. I think I actually need some counseling, and this is good. I think you're my counselor, Gene. So I needed it but you know what? I've gotten through it as a man because I kept with my team, and I'll die a Bucs fan. Like anybody that's in your chat room right now, they're all diehard Bucs fans. They'll all live and die with this team.
Yeah.
And so listen, I expect success this year. If it comes, hell yeah. If it doesn't, I'm here next year too, Gene. I'll be here no matter what we'll be talking about.
That's the whole thing right there, man. I mean, you really summed it up. I remember getting into a fist fight at Tampa Bay Center with a bunch of Packers fans. And just because of the way they come to the stadium, to the Sombrero, talking trash like they run the place. And I'm not, we're not standing for that. You can take your cheese and your yellow, go on back to Tampa International and head back to Green Bay, because we're not standing for it here. But that's what we went through.
If you didn't witness a sombrero fight in those hard bleachers where you brought your own, you brought your own cooler. The pleather one that you opened up and you clicked onto the thing. If you didn't get to live that life, hey man, I feel sorry for you, man.
That was the time where you could bring a cooler. You could bring a cooler in the stadium and bring your own beverages and just it was a party. I remember the people that were sitting next to us were season ticket holders, and they spent their last money on season tickets, and we were sharing sandwiches and stuff with them that we had brought in the cooler. And it's just crazy.
That was a beautiful time.
Yeah, it really was, because now
that was a beautiful time.
You'll get tackled and tased if you try to bring a cooler into this stadium now, because it's about the profits, man. It's what it's pretty much come down to.
You can't even bring a bag and it's clear, a person there, unless it's clear, you know. But we got the terrorists to thank for that one, I guess. Though.
Yeah, I guess, man. I think it's more about. I think it's more about money than security, to be very honest. I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. But I do miss those older years, man. And I hope that it's trending like it did back then, where we went through those hard years and Dungy came in and really, really started to turn things around. So maybe Bruce Arians isn't John Gruden. Maybe we don't reach the mountaintop. Maybe he's Tony Dungy. Maybe he builds this organization into a powerhouse. And maybe it's not him. Maybe it doesn't happen in 3 years. I don't know. Maybe it does. We got to wait and see. You got to be patient as a Bucs fan. We've already been patient. Yeah. Nobody wants to hear that. Everybody wants success now, because that's the kind of day and age we live in. But listen, it has to start somewhere. Yeah. We're gonna have success, and hopefully that somewhere is right here with Bruce Arians and this all-star staff. And that's not something that people like to talk about or have been talking about enough. This coaching staff that he's brought in here, this group of teachers he's brought with him, I think is as exciting as Bruce himself.
Yeah, most definitely. And to your point, I mean, I look at these guys in the chat, Buccaneer Bruce, Willie Horace, some of your different guys that have just been religiously, they come in here and they listen to the chat. These are some of the, like yourself, these are some of the other guys. I'd love to get them on here just to kind of talk to them and, get their perspective on the Bucs, because again, this is a fan show. That's what this is all about. And I really, I can't tell you much, enough how much I appreciate you guys, taking time out of your busy schedule to stop in and just and check us out and even talk about, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a team, to me, that they need to do something. They really do. The organization needs to do something to really get this team. I mean, it's been over a decade. You have not. This team hasn't touched the playoffs. The Raheem Morris year, they missed it by some percentage pointer, something crazy like that, getting into the playoffs. And I think that team was primed enough. They would have won their first game, at least in my opinion, just the way they were playing. So again, folks, these are all diehard fans here. The guys that you see in the chat that come in and talk all the time. If you've been following the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you know, even going back to Raheem Morris or before, you're a diehard fan because of the drought that we've seen. It's just been it's great to see these guys that are not giving up and they just kind of hang in there year after year. And I do want to give a shout out to Buccaneer Bruce. Happy birthday, man. Thank you for checking us out on your birthday. I would like to see the old uniforms, the throwbacks. I wish the NFL would get their head out of their ass and bring back the helmets too. Let the teams have a throwback uniforms that they could wear every so often. I think that would be a great tribute, you know, especially to the NFL, to the past and the present.
Hey, you don't have to sell me on that, man. I miss that that nostalgic look. I loved when, you know, that couple of years that they allowed us to wear the throwbacks.
Yeah,
you know,
Josh Freeman was the quarterback.
Yeah, before concussions took over, you know, everything in the NFL. And maybe eventually they'll come up with a you know, a solution that will help. I actually was looking at this new technology where they're kind of 3D printing the interior of the helmet, so it's actually, you know, the interior, the insert is custom, so the helmet really doesn't matter. If you can switch out the helmet, the insert's custom to the player's head. It's a pretty cool technology, and I think that could be something similar to that could kind of revolutionize things. You know, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I don't think we're going to see the orange and red anytime soon, man, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is a shame. You know what, Willie Horace, I agree. Greg Schiano did Josh killed Josh's confidence. I know there were some other demons, but I'm not going to get into that. But I think that he was still playing at he could have played a lot longer had they had the right coach in. You know, for Josh Freeman, but you know, again, that's all in the past. I don't know. I'm thinking about, like, right now. I mean, you've got you've got my guy coming in, Jameis Winston. I think he's going to be successful coming in with this offense. Everybody's intact. I think they're going to simplify a lot of things on offense as well. I think they're going to take this offense and make it even better. With the level of talent that they have. So I don't know. I just I've got big hopes for this team, and again, I hope that you know, they can really turn this around. Adam, I really enjoyed it, man. I've got to get you on again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really appreciated, you know, you coming on, and thank you again for being a listener. You're greatly appreciated, and I can't believe it's we've been on an hour already. I didn't think we were going to be on that long. I just
looked at that.
Yeah, like, wow.
I know, I can't believe it. I thought for sure we'd only been talking for like 20 minutes, man. But that's how you know you're chopping it up, you know, the right way, because I never felt like any of it was forced. Matter of fact, I think I could do another couple hours if you want, but maybe we'll save that for next time. How about that?
Yeah, most definitely, man. Again, thank you for even volunteering to do this, man. And again, I extend this to a lot of the other listeners. You want to get on here and just, you know, let's get your perspective on the Bucs. I enjoy doing this. I do this for fun, and I think that more fans need a platform. I know there are a lot of podcasts out there. I try to do things a little bit differently than everybody else does, and just kind of do my own thing. But you guys are really appreciated. And Adam, before we roll out, I want to get your final thoughts. And I will definitely be looking to get you back on again. I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, my final thoughts are, man, I think I've gotten over the disappointment and the anger. You know, I'm at that phase now where hope has definitely started to creep back in again. I love the draft. I'm a draft nerd. So this time of year is always fun for me. Regardless of who we get, it's just fun to watch the process. So we'll see. I think a lot is going to stem. Free agency is about a month away. I think that's going to kind of shape the plan for the draft. We'll get to see what the plan is with the big names. Are they going to try to clear some cap space? Are they going to drop McCoy and some of the other bigger contracts? Are they going to re-sign Donovan Smith? All those questions are going to be answered pretty soon. It's exciting. I can't wait. I can't wait to come back on here and talk more, maybe before the draft again or whatever, man.
Oh yeah. It'll be very soon too.
It's a pleasure. And I encourage any of y'all in chat, any of y'all that watch this VOD later, I encourage you, hit this man up on Twitter, hit Eugene up on Twitter, get on the show. I know there's a ton of educated Bucs fans. That's what I love about this chat. Yeah. This isn't the fair weather fan here. I know this group of fans, and everybody who follows your podcast and your podcast, all your YouTube followers, all your Twitter followers. There's a core group of Bucs fans who love this team, who know this team, who are passionate about this team. I love all the podcasts. The more the merrier, man. It gets me through my week. It really does. I listen to them all. I don't hate. I don't hate on anybody, man. You can call me whatever you want. I don't care. I'm a Bucs fan.
That's been my stance on podcasts, to be honest. I heard somebody complaining about all the podcasts. You know what? Wow. Throughout my day, I line up the podcast from Pewtercast to What the Buck when he does his Real Bucs Talk. I mean, there's just so many of them. And there's another one that I just found. I can't think of the name of it, but I listened to part of them and they're really good. It's a husband and wife team. I'll have to find them. But again, guys, cool. and I'll retweet it as soon as I can find them. But this is great that you have this kind of content. A team that's it's had 2 5-win seasons, and you've got all these different podcasts out there, and they're still broadcasting this. Really shows you that they're not fair weather fans. They love this team, and they're going to continue to support this team, regardless. So you guys are greatly appreciated, and I know for me, my final thoughts are: please don't act up when your favorite player gets picked up in free agency by the other team and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers haven't made any moves yet. I was very tolerant of that last year, and I know that you're within your rights to root for a team however you want to, but please stop with the nonsense that the Bucs aren't doing anything or the Bucs don't care about free agency. Just because the Bucs aren't making moves doesn't mean the Bucs aren't making moves, because you can't see what's going on.
You don't know what the plan is.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. So again, it's just one of those things you gotta get right in order to make things work. So just enjoy the offseason.
Nobody saw JPP. Nobody saw JPP coming last year, did they?
Nobody. Yeah, and that's my thing right there. Please just enjoy the offseason. And as the moves come in, you can keep refreshing your Twitter and just wait to see if something big happens. And again, enjoy the offseason. New football leagues in town, and I'm really looking forward to some of these games. I've seen some familiar faces on a lot of these teams, and I'm really excited for this league, to be honest.
Me too, man. Hey, football's football, man. I'll watch a senior citizen league if they roll them out. It doesn't matter, man.
There you go.
It doesn't matter at all, man. Gene, much appreciated, man. Hey, Bucs fans, follow me on Twitter. I'm at Bucs Podcast, or Stank Bastard. You might see me on Twitter. I like to talk a lot of shit. Sorry, Gene. I don't need to. I like to have fun. Follow me. I'll follow you. Gene, much love, man.
All right. Appreciate it. And we're about to roll out of here. Again, thank you guys for all your support. And we're going to roll out now.
Peace.
They come to catch catching
Dean, that was awesome, bro.
Can is like you notice, so it's time to flip the script.